What's up, everyone, and welcome to another cryptocurrency market update. In these videos, we will break down different cryptocurrencies so you can learn how to use technical analysis to forecast price movements in your favorite cryptocurrencies. You'll also see where we are looking to buy and sell these cryptocurrencies ourselves. So let's get into it here and start off with Bitcoin on the weekly time frame. We'll talk about Bitcoin and then we'll go into Ethereum as well. So let's start off with Bitcoin on the weekly time frame. So Bitcoin on the weekly time frame last week printed what we would call a Darth Maul candle, and that's a candle that looks like the Darth Maul lightsaber. That's where the name comes from, and that's with a long upper wick and long lower wick. So you can see we grabbed liquidity on both sides of the market, on the high here and on the low, and that's what this green check mark is representing. So the liquidity is where people's stop losses are, and this is something we've been covering in many of the past videos, but it's a concept that I really want people to understand. And the concept of liquidity is really, you can think of it kind of like gas for a car. So the whales in the market, the big players in the market, they need to fill their positions at a certain price that they feel like is a good price for where they're trying to push the price next. So if they want to push the price up, they want to get a cheap price. So they want to push the price down, trigger stop losses down below, and then push the price up. And the reason they have to trigger those stop losses is because they need to have liquidity. They need to have a lot of money on the order books so they can fill tens of millions of dollars in positions and not move the price substantially when they're doing that. So liquidity in this case, like I said, you could think of it like gas in a car, and you could think of it kind of like, when you're going to the gas station and you fill up your gas tank with gas, you can drive a very far distance. So if we look at this on the weekly time frame, what this is telling us, let's go down to the daily time frame actually. This is us filling up at the gas station right now. This is us going to the gas station and saying, all right, we got a full tank of gas now, and we can drive all the way to, somewhere that's 5 hours away without stopping again for gas. That's what you can kind of think of as grabbing liquidity. It's like filling up your car with gas. And so what we're seeing here is we grab the liquidity below this low as well as this low. And the way we know that there's stop losses below these key lows is with the increase in bull volume on the subsequent rise after that low. So people that went long in this range put their stop loss below this low. People that went long down here put their stop loss below this low. So we went down and grabbed this low as well as this low and have closed both of these candles above this low right here. And so today's candle, we're seeing that we're starting to creep up. We broke the low of the previous daily candle here, which is somewhat bearish because when you break an inside bar in one direction, you usually see expansion in that direction. But we're not really seeing the expansion here. You can see we traded down a little bit. We didn't go below this gray support zone right here. And we're starting to trade back into this gap in between these two zones. So if we look at what these zones we're looking at are, there's a couple different things. The blue zone right here is on the 3-day time frame. And this is when we changed the trend to bullish. So the way we know this is a support zone is we had a change in trend, or I'm sorry, not a change in trend, but a continuation of trend in the bull's favor. And we had this candle right here be support. So we had a low, high, higher low, signifying waning bear momentum, meaning there was less selling pressure on this low than there was on the initial low because we didn't go down as far in price. And then a higher high, signifying that the trend is indeed bullish. So this candle, the black candle, which had above average bear volume, is telling us that people were selling their Bitcoin at this place. So what that means is if we return to that place, it should flip, and people that were selling there, now that they know the trend is bullish, will buy their Bitcoin back. And so this is our support zone, the blue support zone. You can see we bounced off this level very nicely here for a nice appreciation in price. If you took that trade, that was probably over 20% trade. Subsequently, we came up and then we came down back into this zone, wicked right below this, and then closed back above. Now this long lower wick here is signifying that people are buying the dip. So this is a bullish candle, believe it or not. Although we have this increase in bear volume, like I said, we're filling up at the tank here. We're filling up our car, ready to go for new highs. So for us to go to new highs, we need fuel. And we just grabbed a bunch of fuel just now. So that's our blue support zone. If we go to the daily time frame, these gray zones, so sorry, this one's not supposed to be on the daily time frame. So if we look at this zone right here, we talked about this back in this range. This is when we came down in price and we were in a bear trend. So we had a high, low, lower high, lower low. And then so this zone, this candle where people were buying should have been where people sell their positions right here, because they know it's a bear trend, and then we continue lower. But instead, price invalidated that, and we pushed right through it and closed above it. So now when we retest that zone, that should be support. And that's what we had right here. A nice, we talked about this trade on the channel. If you've been a subscriber, you would have seen this trade and this entry. We talked about back here on, we talked about this entry in this entire range, but then we finally got in here and we rode that up for about 16+%. Subsequently, you can see the price is still holding this zone as support. We're also bouncing off of the daily pivot level here. And if you don't know how to use the pivot indicator to look at support and resistance zones and take profits and maximize your profit potential, you can check out the video that we did on that here. And then this gray zone right here is actually from the 2-day time frame. And this is when we continued the trend right here. And validated a bull trend right here with a low, high, higher low, higher high. This is the last black candle, the last down candle before this push up in price. It should have supported price here, but it did not. So if we close, and it closed below. So today's daily candle, for this to still remain valid, we need to close back inside of this zone, which is at about 56,806. So this is the main zone that I'm watching for us to close back inside. But I do think that we probably will, just because look at the long lower wicks that we're seeing here, the confluence with the pivot zone, the gray support zone, and then if we go to the lower term time frames, we can see we just had an above average bull volume 12-hour candle here, which is very good for continuation. And then if we look at the main resistance zones here, if we go to the 4-hour time frame, you can see a couple different things. One, we have this resistance zone here that we talked about back in this range, and we rejected off that here, came up, rejected off it again, and now we're testing it a third time. So we need to push through this zone and close a couple candles above it. If we do, a retest of that zone will be a good spot, in my opinion, that I will open a long position with my stop loss down below that zone. We had a bullish divergence here on the RSI with a lower low in price, but a higher low in the RSI. That has helped price appreciate over the last 4 hours, and we'll see if we can continue that momentum higher here and close above that zone. Like I said, we need to close back inside of that by the end of today. The more times we test this gray zone, the more it's going to weaken. And so that's what you need to look for whenever you're looking for resistance zones or support zones. The first test of them is usually it's a very strong zone. And then the more times that you test it, the weaker it gets. And so right now we've tested this once, twice, and now we're testing it a third time. And it's only a 4-hour level, so I imagine that it should break relatively soon. Let's switch our focus over to ETH. So ETH on the weekly time frame, very similar to Bitcoin, has this Darth Maul candle with a long lower wick and upper wick. We did have this consolidation period right back here where price was tightening up, and then it springed upwards here. And now we had a retest of this previous resistance zone right here. And so that's bullish in my opinion. We did come up and touch the R5 pivot, which is the last major resistance zone on the weekly and monthly time frame that we have to look at using the pivots indicator, based on the average prices of the previous range. It gives us these resistance levels. We already came up and touched the R5, which is up here at about 25.45. So if we go above this again, I would imagine that we'll probably go to 3,000, just because it's a big figure and that's where I think people want the price to go. If we go to the 3-day time frame, you can see that actually, let's go back to Bitcoin real quick and talk about where I'm looking to make an entry. So just because I don't want to forget, so the daily time frame, I'm looking to go long right where we are now. I've already entered that position and put my stop loss below this low, because I think if we go down below this low, that's no longer valid and we're no longer bullish. But if this was a liquidity run, then we should start to see that appreciation in price slowly but surely as people start to become more bullish. The target for this is minimum 72K, which is this R2 up here. It's about 29% from the current price. And then if we, like I said, get that 4-hour play, which I would really love to see, is getting the 4-hour candle closes above this low. I would like a retest of that zone and put my stop loss down below that, and then see that trade go from there. So back to Ethereum. Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, we had this candle that went down, grabbed the liquidity below this low, and now you're seeing we just have an inside bar on this 3-day time frame. Daily time frame, this is our main support zone right here. So we have this black candle right here where we had a low, high, higher low, higher high, which is that 4-step bull pattern that we look for when we're looking for bullish price action. And then this is the last place where people were selling their Ethereum before the rise in price. So you can see that price is trying to be supported by this with the long lower wick here, the close above. Yesterday's the longer lower wick here, and then today's candle with the longer lower wick as well. One thing that we're seeing on Bitcoin and Ethereum is this decrease in bull volume, and I like to use the volume as an indication of where price might be moving next. And so with the decrease in bear volume on the daily time frame, it seems like the sellers in the market that want to sell their Bitcoin at these prices are getting exhausted, which means that the only direction price can go once the sellers get exhausted is up, because there's no one left to sell. So that's what we're seeing on Ethereum, as well as a decrease in sell volume. So today, if we start to see a green candle or even a shorter red candle, that's still bullish in my opinion. So I went long here on ETH as well with my stop loss down below that low. Ichimoku Cloud looking really good here. For continuation, we had this touch of the daily Kijun right below this key low, and then you saw the price react to that very nicely. Subsequent to that, we are consolidating on the 4-hour time frame. If we go to the 4-hour time frame, Ichimoku Cloud looking kind of bearish here, but we're in the cloud, so it's really not telling us much. We have this pivot level up here, which is we're gonna have to try and push through that in the coming days and hours. We grabbed liquidity below this low right here. We swept that low right here and then wicked back above it, and then we've subsequently pushed up in price. And so we need to see this continuation price. We need to see this continue with 12-hour trend change back to bullish here. This is going to be the main resistance zone for us right here, this yellow candle. I'm sorry, not yellow candle, but yellow zone. And the way we know that is with our high, low, lower high, lower low pattern, that bearish pattern. So this is going to be the main zone to watch for Ethereum if we end up going back up. With these long lower wicks and the increase in bull volume, I do imagine that we will start to appreciate in price. This is going to be the level that I'll watch because it's right above this key high right here where people sold off. We'll need to establish support on the lower term time frames to try and push through that yellow zone. But that's kind of what we're looking at on Ethereum. It's not tradable at this current moment, in my opinion. Even if we look at some of these other time frames, it's just forming a tightening pattern with a low, high, higher low, and then we're going to see if we can form either a higher high or a lower high and then try and continue to tighten up here. Really, the reason we start off with Bitcoin in these videos is because Bitcoin drives the rest of the market. So Bitcoin needs to close inside of that 2-day zone that we talked about right here for me to have increased confidence that this is going to continue higher. But like I said, I already entered some positions now because the risk to reward is really good here. We have about a 2.79 risk to reward with a 29% profit potential if we go up to that 72K level. I imagine if we start to go up, we might go above that 72K level and go up to about 80K, which is the weekly time frame, roughly the R4 level right here. So if we close weekly candles above the R3, that gives us increased confidence that we go to the next pivot level, and the next pivot level is up here at about 80K. So I wouldn't be surprised if we went to 80K, and that was where we went in the next coming weeks. Last thing real quick, monthly time frame for Bitcoin. we need to see this monthly candle look bullish by the end of this month. We have 10 days and 11 hours left. I would like to see this close above the R3 pivot. That would give me increased confidence that we're going to go up to that R4 pivot up here at about 80K. If we really went, parabolic, the ultimate target up here, R5, is about 97K. I don't think that we're going to get to 97K, but you never know. It's Bitcoin. So those are my targets. This is where I'm looking to go long. We'll see how the price action develops. We want to see that 4-hour trend change back to bullish here, and that's what I'll be looking for. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, give it a like down below and subscribe for future educational content around cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. And until next time, onward and upward.